All right, up here on Cage Rider, we check in with our lead MMA writer, and that's Kevin Iole. Kevin, not that you've missed a lot of action lately because of the boxing, but there was a hell of a teleconference the other day. We know that Chael Sonnen can talk, and Anderson Silva can as well, but he chooses not to most of the time. What was your read on, I wrote a really critical piece of Anderson, and a lot of people kind of slammed him.
I personally think Anderson was being a total jerk. I mean, a complete, utter jerk is what he was being. I mean, let's call it like it is. And, because he was giving one-word answers, he was being condescending. For the longest time, I thought Anderson Silva was a nice guy, a friendly guy. Really was hoping that, he would learn English so that, he could communicate that to the fans of MMA who really don't know him as well as maybe they'd like to, and like they do other fighters like Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, and guys like that. But he was a jerk on that conference call. Maybe he's put off by the way Chael Sonnen has yapped, but other fighters have talked a lot, and Anderson hasn't responded that way. But I thought he was a complete imbecile what he did, and he's turned a lot of people against him.
Well, I think it's not only turning people against him, but as I wrote, there's a lot of people out there who have no idea who he is, because part of your role as a fighter, we talk so much on the boxing side about Floyd Mayweather. Love him or hate him, you probably pick one side. There's a lot of people who are just kind of ambivalent. The casual fight fan has no idea, or the non-MMA fan has no idea who he is. And how can that be? I mean, he's got this massive winning streak. He's unbelievable. I mean, we're not ripping his fighting ability. He is great.
Yeah, I mean, I ripped his performance at UFC 112 in particular. I didn't like his fights at UFC 90 or UFC 97 against Patrick Cote and Talis Latis, respectively, but you can explain those in the context of strategy in a fight. And not every fight is going to be a tremendous, action, knockdown, drag-out brawl. So, you can explain those. But there's no explanation for what he did against Demian Maia. He was far better than Demian Maia, far more talented, and it was a fight that he could have ended it pretty much on his call. Just step it up a little bit. A combination here and there, he gets rid of Demian Maia. Instead, and I was in Abu Dhabi for the fight, he's shaking his rear end, he's jumping behind the referee, he's slapping the mat, he's talking a lot, he's sticking his chin out, but he wasn't fighting. And, people aren't paying to see Anderson Silva posing in the ring. People are paying to see Anderson Silva knock somebody out. And he complains about his money, he complains that he wants to get paid more. Well, guess what? You get paid more by performing and making people want to see you. And if you win boring decisions, and if you don't fight and jump behind the referee, people don't want to see you fight anymore, and you don't make any more money.
So one of the other things I wrote at the end of the critique of the press conference was, I don't know, I see this going in a bad direction. His attitude with Dana White, I don't think he's a guy you want to cross. I don't think he's a guy you want to start a war with. He's not afraid to boot guys out, and I guess it would be unreal to not have Anderson Silva, maybe the best fighter in the world, but if he continues to say stuff like Dana can say whatever he wants and, doesn't show contrition, could this guy be on the outside looking in 2 years and trying to make money abroad somewhere else against lesser guys?
Well, I don't think the fighter should have to kiss Dana's butt. Let's say that. I don't think that they should have to come out and say, "Oh, Dana's the greatest." Hey, let's say what you think. Dana says what he thinks, and I think the fighters should be able to say what they think. But their job is twofold. Number one, to fight in the cage, more than anything else. More than doing interviews with us, more than signing autographs for the fans. It's when they lock that door to get in there and bring it all and give it all. And Anderson Silva has done that for the most part in his UFC career. Again, the 112 was a real big aberration. Some people point to 90 and 97. We can debate those points, but certainly 112 is it. Dana, I think there's a burden on Dana in this, not because of Anderson saying Dana can say what he wants, because he said that at press conferences. At Abu Dhabi, he said that. Dana was critical of him, and Anderson was sitting to Dana's right, and Anderson said, hey, he has his opinion, I have mine. But if he fights the same way that he did in Abu Dhabi, if he doesn't, go after Chael Sonnen, and he's a counter striker to a large degree, but if he doesn't try to finish the fight when he has chances, if he doesn't engage a lot, period, if he runs around the ring and doesn't who was the fighter against Nate Quarry that ran around the ring the whole time? Caleb Starnes. Yeah, if he does that, then I think, Dana will make the hard decision. It won't be too hard for him because he'll be so fuming, he'll gas him. But I think as long as Anderson shows up and fights and does his job, win or lose, I don't think he has to win the fight to keep his job. I just think that he has to fight.
Last thing on that teleconference, and listen, I'm not always spot on. From what I pull out of press conferences and teleconferences, I will go more the negative direction more often than not. But I also ignore certain things that are said because they're said so often that you learn as a veteran member of the media that's silly. Anderson Silva saying now that he's going to stay at 85 for the rest of his career. I'm sorry, I don't find it newsworthy. It may make for a good headline, but I think it's ridiculous.
Well, you can call him on it. And you get a history. So he said it. We quote him on it. You're saying you're staying at 185. Do we believe it? No. Anderson Silva, as I said before, he's fighting for the biggest payday possible. Well, at some point, the biggest payday possible is not going to be at 185 pounds. Maybe, when I was in Abu Dhabi, he talked about dropping to 170. He was the shootout champion at 167. Yeah. So he's made it before. If he can make it, maybe fight GSP at 170. If not, go to 205 where there's a lot of big names, a lot of good fights, and you'll make a ton of money. If Shogun, let's say for the sake of argument that Mauricio Shogun Rua defeats Rashad Evans when they fight next spring, whenever that fight might happen. Shogun's recovering from knee surgery, and Silva wins against Sonnen and then maybe Vitor Belfort. Don't you think it would be a massive fight to put Anderson Silva up against Shogun Rua? I think it would be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. So, he's not going to walk away from that. What he says now is what he's saying now. I think, his actions have proven throughout the years that, he's going to make the right move, and the right move in that case would be to move up to 205.
Right. And he's got a big training partner now in Steven Seagal, so he should be able to fight anyone, basically, up to 400 pounds.
He knows Aikido.
His stuff does look fancy. All right, Kev, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.